All right, welcome back. We'll be looking at design principles. Okay, like I said previously, in every aspect of life, in different endeavors, different disciplines, there are rules, there are principles guiding that course. Okay, so also is design, graphic design. There are principles that once you follow, you are sure that you would have a decent design. All right. So when you see bad designs, be sure that one or more of these principles have been broken. Okay, like I said, rules are meant to be broken, yeah, so you don't have to be rigid. Okay, but as a beginner starting out, it is advisable that you stick to these principles. Okay, this ensures that to a certain level, to a certain extent, that you have a decent design. Okay, that nothing is going wrong. But it will get to a point in time where you need to tweak a bit. You need to break some rules to design something more beautiful based on what you are doing, based on the information you're trying to pass across at that time. Okay, so just know that yes, principles are there, the rules are there, but they can also be broken. All right. So there are several principles. Once you go online and you search principles of design or design principles, there are several, okay, but there are 12 that has been generally agreed upon, accepted as principles. Okay, so we'll be looking at these 12, and the idea is that you just grab all of these, absorb them, and be ready to use them in your designs. Just know them, let them become part of you, and then naturally, once you are designing, you are looking out for these things in your design. Okay, the very first one we'll be looking at is what we call contrast. Okay, contrast is basically the difference between the various elements within a design, okay, that makes them stand out from each other. Okay, so I'll just give an example to show you. Just looking at this design alone, you can see design principles is in a darker shade of blue against the background that is a lighter color. Okay, so the contrast here is good. That's why you can see this text. Okay, once we look at here, you have contrast and you see this other text. Contrast is the difference between various elements. Looking at these two, you can tell that the contrast in white is much more better than the one that you have the lighter shade of blue. Okay, because this is more visible. Okay, so in your design, you want to weigh your options as to where to contrast them more, where to use colors that are closer to each other, relatable to each other. Okay, so it's totally up to you. Remember, graphic design is an art. Okay, you are trying to express yourself in the best way possible. So there are really no definite rules. Okay, but these are principles that when something is going wrong in your design, just look out for all of this and try to adjust them. Okay. So here you can see good contrast and you can see bad contrast, where you have two light colors or two dark colors, or two bright colors, or, it's not just working. You can see the good contrast here, very clear to read, good contrast, but here it's just shouting in your eyes and it's just painful to read here, okay? So just take note of that. The next principle we'll be looking at is balance. So balance can either be symmetrical, okay, or asymmetrical. All right. So balance, it's majorly just having things coherent. All right. It could be on the left to the right side, up to down, just striking a balance. Somehow our brain just kind of absorbs information in a way that we cannot really explain. Okay. Let me try something. You can see black here, white here. So both sides are balanced. The spacing beside are balanced. The circle are of the same shape, the same size, and all. So somehow you can feel the balance, okay? So I'll try to cover just one of these circles and you see what happens, okay? I think you understand balance better once I do that. So I'll just take this and let me cover this. All right. So just watch what happens. Boom. You can see. Somehow, just looking at this, your brain kind of tells you that this place is empty, kind of. It is empty. Something is missing. Yes. Okay. Something is missing. So if your design is imbalanced, your brain will tell you. All right. If you take a professional or someone that has this information, like you do now, okay, to take this information that you have to be able to understand why your design is not looking as great as it should be. Okay, so somehow your brain is telling you this side is empty. So you need to put something here. You need to balance it. Okay, so by removing that again, you see somehow it just balances and your brain just tells you, yes, this is what has been missing. Okay, so in designing, imagine moving this white circle down here and having these two here and nothing here. You will need to move the white one to this side to balance it. Okay, so that's the idea. Remember, you have a plain canvas you're working on and you are arranging elements, putting them together, making them look good. Okay, so if balance is not there, then your design would look incomplete. All right, so balance. Let's see. Okay, so here the balance here is all about space. You can see, looking at this design here, the space here and the space here are the same and equal. Okay, so it's balanced. But looking at this here, you can see that this DMD, long reach, whatever, is tilted to the right. Okay, so you have more space on the left side and a little space on the right hand side. Okay, so looking at it, somehow your brain will tell you that, oh, something is off, and this is it is because of the balance. So Photoshop has tools to help you align things to the center or align to the left or to the right properly, so everything would be balanced like it should be. All right, so we'll be looking at all of that when we start designing properly. Okay, yes. So the next principle we're looking at would be emphasis. All right, emphasis. So emphasis generally just causes certain parts of a design to stand out compared to other elements. All right, so it can also be used to minimize how much an element stands out. Okay, so you are looking at this now. You can easily see that the white circle is emphasized there. Why? Because it's standing out. Okay, so you can use color to emphasize something. You can have a text, all text are in blue, and you emphasize a particular word there, and the color of the font will be red. So it just stands out. Emphasis is drawing the eyes or drawing the attention of your viewers to a particular aspect of your design using color, or it could be size, just emphasizing on that particular element. So if all of these were black, I could emphasize this one by increasing its size, not necessarily the color. Okay, so if everything here was black and I made one of the circles here bigger or smaller, your eye will be drawn to that particular circle because it is odd. Out of all of them here, it is looking different. So that's where the emphasis is on. For now, the emphasis is based on color. All right, so in your design, you don't want your design to just have all elements the same size and everything just looking so bland and boring. No, you want to emphasize some aspect. There's some keywords, there's some key designs, there's some key elements you want people to pay attention to in your design. Okay, so use emphasis. Either increase the size, reduce the size, or change the color, So that's whatever decision you take there is totally dependent on you as the artist creating. All right. So so the red background here, okay, around the cyborg was used to emphasize the logo, cyborg logo. If this red background was not there, this logo might have been lost in the design, because it's just white and blue and all. It could have been lost. You can see all this background and also a lot of blue happening. So the red background here kind of emphasizes this logo. You can see it's bright. Okay, so it just pulls your attention to it. Okay, so so I said something down here. Designs ought not to be too crowded. Yes, okay. When we start designing flyers and all, you would understand what I mean. You don't need to crowd your designs, okay? You want to let your designs be breathing, okay? Have space in between and all of that. But this is just a rare occasion. Like I said, the rules are meant to be broken, okay? This is just a rare case because this was printed and used for a game house where, fun-loving, football-loving youths come to play games. So this had to catch their attention. Okay, so this is a very large light box was used. This was printed and put into that light box. It was very colorful, so they're drawn to it. All right. Okay, so let's move on to the next design principle. Okay. Proportion. Okay, so proportion is just basically the size of elements in relation to one another. As you can see, white circle is smaller than the black one. Okay, so proportion here is just size. So the larger elements tend to be seen as more important than the smaller ones. Okay, so in designing, the most important information on your design should be emphasized. Okay, with respect to proportion, you can increase the size so that it is visible, legible, and people would not miss it. Okay, yes. So the least important. So I'm already going overboard talking about another principle, but yes, proportion is all about size. Okay, I think that is self-explanatory. It's all about size. So you can also see that the cyborg logo here, the size itself, also was used to emphasize, to show that, yes, this is very important. Like I told you, based on what this design is used for, it's for a game house, this actually worked. Okay, the name of the game house is Cyborg, and so, yes, this was in their faces, on their lips. They were always saying it everywhere. So that's it about proportion. And the next one is hierarchy. All right, so hierarchy basically just refers to the importance of elements within a design, all right? So the most important elements should appear to be the most important and vice versa. Okay, so if you're designing, it doesn't make sense for you to make your most important elements invisible in relation to the ones that are not really important. So you can see here, most times you want the most important to be as large, as legible as possible, and the next important to be a little bit reduced in size, and then all the way down to the least important. Okay, so that's it about hierarchy. I hope you understand that. Let's just look at something here. Okay, so I pulled this off the internet because it explains very well, perfectly what the role of hierarchy is in design. As you can see here on your left-hand side here, you can see that the text here, there really is no hierarchy here. So it's kind of boring, So beginner designers, most of the time, they don't really know this. Now you have this information and you should be able to use it to your advantage. So you can see this and you can see this. Which one do you prefer? Of course, this. Okay, you can see how hierarchy makes everything stand out here. The name, border, and all, and then reduce. Okay, so hierarchy, you can apply that to your design. So it's one of the principles of design. Okay, let's look at the next one is repetition. Okay, so repetition reinforces an idea or a perception. You are repeating something. Okay, so it can be done via using the same format for headers, reusing the same colors, images, or similar choices. As you can see, you use a black, white, black, you are repeating something, repeating a shape, a color, and all. So somehow our brain kind of likes repetition. Okay, not when it is done creatively though, in a design, all right? Because it could also be boring if you overdo it. So knowing how to use it is key. Okay, knowing how to use it is key. So let's look at the design. You can see, you can see the interesting use of repetition here. The light bulb. Okay, kind of aesthetic, very beautiful. Okay, simple design and straightforward. So knowing when to use it, you are the creative being here. You are the one to decide when to use any of these principles. All right, just know that these principles exist for your use. Okay, so the next principle is reading. Okay, so reading basically is just the spacing between elements that can be used to create a sense of, it could be regular, it could be irregular. All right. Rhythms can be used to create a variety of emotions, including calmness, which is with regular rhythms, and excitement with irregular rhythms. Okay, so when the rhythm is regular, it kind of brings emotions relating to calmness. Okay, calmness. When the rhythm is irregular, it kind of incites excitement. Okay, remember that your design is trying to pass a message across. Okay, so there's an emotion that you're trying to generate based off your design. So you need to make sure that you don't lose touch of that emotion that you are trying to create. So rhythm is a powerful tool to use. By spacing, okay, the elements, the color, and all, you can create a certain emotion, a certain mood. All right. The next principle is pattern. Okay, so pattern generally just refers to repetition of design elements. So repeating design elements make up patterns. Okay, and somehow we love patterns. Our brain loves pattern. We can find pattern all around us: clothing, backgrounds, and textures and stuffs. All right, so they can also refer to set standards for how certain elements are designed. Okay. Let's just look at the use of pattern. Okay, so yeah, so repetition of of design elements. Okay, so you can see somehow we just love patterns. Somehow patterns are beautiful to the eyes. Okay, somehow our brains just love patterns. Okay, so just know that that's also a principle. So white space, yes, many people will be like, white space. What is white space? So white space, also known as negative space, just refers to the areas of design that have no design elements at all. So every space in your design is very important. Okay, I mentioned it earlier on. Every space. So you need your designs to be breathing. So there must be space in between the elements so that they are not clamored up. Okay, so that they are not clamored up. So this space is important for making a design uncluttered, yes, as well as for making various elements stand out. Okay, yes, so you need white space or negative space in your design. All right, let's just look at this. Okay, so you can see spaces between the elements here, and you can see this here. Which do you prefer? Okay, you can see this looks very decent, very clean, as opposed to this other design. Okay, you can see it looks so crowded, no spacing and all. So yes, so the space doesn't necessarily have to be white. Okay, you just have to make sure there is enough space between your elements, except where you need them to actually touch or overlap. So except where you need the elements to be overlapping, except where you need them to actually be touching, it's best that you leave spaces, all right, in between the elements. Okay, so the next one is movement. Okay, so movement is the way a person's eyes travel over a design. The most important element should lead to the next most important, and so on. Okay, so this can be done via positioning, emphasis, and other design principles. Remember, we talked about hierarchy and all. So you want to use all of this. So they all work hand in hand. One thing you should have realized by now is all these principles are interlocking. Okay, they work hand in hand to give you that beautiful functional design. All right. So as a designer, you are in charge of how the eyes of your viewers move across your design. Okay, so you take note of how your eye first moves to the largest element on the design, to the next, all right, and to the next. So you are in charge, you are in control, and you should also take note of the movement. Okay, so after designing, take a look at your design. How well have you done in relation to movement? Okay, how would people's eyes move across your design? Is it going according to the way you want it to go, from the most important to the least important? All right. The next one is variety. Variety, they say, is the spice of life. You don't want your design being boring. So variety creates visual interest in a design. It can be created via typography. We'll talk about typography. Okay, color. So you need to use color properly. Images, textures, and virtually any design element that you'll be using. Okay, just to make sure that your design is not boring. You don't use the same elements all through. You don't use the same color all through. Like I said from the very beginning, rules are meant to be broken. Okay, there's a time you will use the same color all through. Okay, we'll also look at that. But just know that variety is the spice of life. You need to spice up your design, and you are the one to decide exactly how to do that. Okay, you are the one to decide exactly how to do that. So looking at variety, you can see which one catches your attention the most. Of course, the one to the left is spiced up, different colors, different shades, colors, different shapes. So in your design, you want to make it more interesting to look at, to be eye-catching, all right? So last but not the least is unity. So unity is how well the elements of the design work together. Okay, so each element should have a clear visual relationship with each other element to help communicate a clear, concise message. You can see how aligned and arranged everything is here. Okay, so none of them is looking like it's not part of the design. So they're all united. So you need every element in your design to kind of fit in, all right, and yet still stand out. Okay, in standing out, it should not look like it's not part of the design at all. So your element could actually stand out, but it's still in unity, in unison with the whole design itself. All right. Let me see if I have something here. Okay, so you can just see a simple example. You can see how united everything here. You can see here the balance is off, kind of, and so they're not united in any way. So everything works hand in hand. Unity, balance, hierarchy, they all work hand in hand. Okay, so we've come to the end of design principles. All right. See you in the next session.